Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm still getting my brain back from last week, which was so much fun, but totally exhausting. So forgive me for that. Good afternoon, everyone. It is Wednesday, July 20th, 2022 at 3 o'clock p.m. And that means it is time for Women in Business. You might hear my voice is a little shaky already. I apologize for that. I taught 4 classes and a panel and talked to a lot of people in a lot of places last week. And I'm going to tell you all about that and what I learned from that. But I wanted to start off with a little bit of a NASCAR plug. You might notice that I'm wearing and have around me a lot of stuff today. And I wanted to tell you about it. The shirt, first of all, says WIGD, and that stands for Women in Garment Decoration, which is the group that I run on Facebook. And we had a meet and greet at the event, and a lovely woman named Carolyn Cagle, who works at Strict Knits Embroidery, made the shirt for me, and she did a beautiful job, and she makes beautiful, amazing stuff, and she's very creative. So if you're interested in having a shirt like this or having her do something for you, you can go to this website, strictknitsembroidery.com. And I pray I said it right, because for years I said Stricky, and that's not right at all. So hopefully I got it this time, Carolyn, if you are watching. The next thing you might notice is the amazing earrings that I am wearing. These were a gift from the wonderful and joyful Sheila Ryan from Designs by Baby Moon. She has classes over there teaching you how to make these. She has designs. I think she might even sell the finished earrings. I'm not entirely positive on that, but these are beautiful in my favorite color, and I was so touched that she made them for me. And then finally, I want to talk about Mr. Plush Purple Nerd Star. His name is Nerdstrom, I've decided. I don't know why. I just think he looks like a Nerdstrom. And he was gifted to me by Adam from BJJ Hats. And for those of you who don't know Adam, he's absolutely a wonderful young man. He's 11 years old. He owns his own company, and he makes Nerd Stars. And I have, so far as I'm aware, the only plush purple Nerd Star in existence. So I feel very exclusive, and as though it was made expressly for me. So how can you not feel important? And that is one of the first things that I want to talk about. It was not on my list of stuff to talk about, but one of the things that I had to wrap my head around at the show was how many people brought me things. I couldn't wear everything that everybody brought me. Cindy King brought me a gorgeous shirt. I have another pair of earrings that was gifted to me that she made by Lisa Shaw, which I'm sure you will see on another broadcast, because it's not like I don't wear purple a lot. People were so sweet. And just for the record, if Jeff is watching, I do have AG swag now. I have my AG tumbler. So that was something that I had to, my first instinct when somebody brings me something or gives me something is, oh, you didn't have to do that. I'm not worthy of that. And I don't know why that is. And I really tried to quell that, because the people that were making these things for me and were bringing them to me took such joy in it. And I didn't want to take that away from them by being all, oh, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve it. So I try to just smile and say thank you and appreciate it, and be proud that I'd made enough of an impact on people that they wanted to make things for me. It's a lovely feeling, I really got to say. And every time I wear these earrings or this shirt, or I see my Nerd Star, or I drink out of my tumbler, I know that someone was thinking of me and wanted me to have something. And that's a lovely feeling. And before we go further, I'm piling up comments here. Cindy King, who I mentioned, she made me a gorgeous purple shirt. A lot of people were repping her shirts at the show. I know most of the Salcido family, who is the family that Lindsay is the founder of the show, and it's her family and her kids. They were all wearing shirts and they look so cute. Wendy, thank you for being here. Glad to see you. And thank you. I thought you saw the shirt when I wore it Friday night, Cindy, but you may not have. And the Nerd Star I kind of hid because it was threatened to be star napped a few times, and I was not going to allow that to happen. That one's mine. So, and by the way, if you missed the pictures of the costume party that we did on Friday night at AG, Cindy and Lisa Shaw dressed in the most amazing black and gold flapper outfits I have ever seen. They looked so awesome. And it was really just a trip. It was so much fun. So I have a Facebook user here. And Facebook user, if they won't show your name for whatever the reason, you can go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and give them permission. Sometimes StreamYard is kind of a jerk and won't tell us who you are. I don't know why it's picky like that, but sometimes it is. So StreamYard/Facebook, StreamYard.com/Facebook, and that will give StreamYard permission to tell us who you are. And I totally agree with this Facebook user who says Adam is amazing. Meeting him in person was quite the experience. He's mischievous and adorable and smart and funny and really everything that you would hope he would be if you had seen him on camera before. He's just a great young man and so adorable. And hello, Jane. And Cindy is calling me. Yes, Cindy. Heidi Wade from Basket of Crazy made me an adorable little purple bag that I carried with me for the most of the show. And I contacted her before the show specifically to ask her, could she make this? And I posted on, I think, my Facebook profile some pictures of it that she sent me. And I will take some more now that I have it and make sure she gets credit where credit is due. But that purse was so handy because I needed something small that I could carry my phone, I could carry a lav mic, I could carry some business cards, I could carry some hotel keys, and it was just perfect. And it was small enough that I could carry it and it was out of the way and it wasn't obtrusive and it worked beautifully. And I was so happy I had it. So thank you for the reminder, Cindy, because I thought of that before I was supposed to go live. And then I got caught up in another conversation and I didn't remember to add her to the list. So the company is Basket of Crazy. I will make sure I post on the Women in Business page after this is over with her details and her website and some pictures. But it was amazing. And yes, I loved it too, Cindy. It came in so handy. It was exactly what I needed. Jeff's here. Hi, Jeff. Good to see ya. Happy birthday, by the way. And you'll notice Nerdstrom is hanging out with me. So that's what I named him. So Jeff is Adam Fuller's father. For those of you who don't know, they were a father-son duo who taught a class at the show. Amazing. All the nerds were amazing. Nikki Ademkowitz, the Sassy Subber, all our vendors were amazing. But well, I'm glad the name is nerd approved because that would be not good otherwise. Okay, so despite all of my rambling and NASCARing, which is what we call it when I'm wearing other people's swag, which was a running joke from the live I think I did with Jeff before advertising Applique Getaway. So, like I said then, if you have swag you want me to wear, I will wear it on camera and I will credit you. That's not what we're here to talk about, though, and I am not trolling for swag. That's not the point of this. I just wanted to give credit where credit was due to some people who had very nicely made some things for me. But let's talk about what I learned from this show. And I want to say, first of all, there were a ton of great classes. All our vendors were amazing. There was so much to see and do. And be a part of. And there were so many great conversations happening and hugs and laughter and all that stuff. And it was really, really fun. But what I want to talk about today is just some lessons that I learned that were maybe more life lessons rather than like how to do something lessons. And I apologize. The weather is not cooperating here. It can't decide whether it wants to storm or be sunny. So the light, I was working with inside light, but there's a window in this room. So the light is fluctuating. I apologize for that. I can't make the sun stop doing what it's doing. So we're just going to have to live with it. But the first lesson I got from the show sounds like a negative, but it's not really once you understand it. Not everyone will like what you do. And when you're building a show, when you're making stuff to take to a show, when you're doing a presentation, when you're making stuff to put on in your online shop, you hope that everybody's just going to be, wow, that's the best thing ever. I'm so excited. I can't stand it. I want to give you all my money. It's not always what happens. You can plan a class schedule. You can plan a show schedule. You can plan a schedule of how you're going to release products. And you can do it with the most care and thought and attention to detail that you possibly can do. And there's probably going to be somebody that won't be happy about it. And what you need to remember is some people get so caught up in everybody has to like everything they do. Everybody has to be happy. I was one of those people for a long time. One of the biggest stressors I have with Applique Getaway is I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to like everything. And so I try to hold the reins really, really tight because I feel like if I can just make everything go perfectly, then everybody's going to be happy and everybody's going to like everything. It's not going to happen. They'll criticize your slides. They'll criticize how loud you talked, how soft you talked. They'll criticize the placement of the booth. They'll criticize what's in the booth. They'll criticize who's there. They'll criticize who isn't there. And it's the same thing if you're making something. If you made blue, you should have made red. If you made big ones, you should have made small ones. If you made 5, you should have made 50. There's always going to be that person who isn't happy for whatever the reason. Here's the thing. It is not your responsibility to make everyone happy because it's a physical impossibility. And if people want to be mad or upset about things, they will be. And that's not your fault. And it's not your place really to try to stop that. And that was something that it was actually a little powerful for me to learn, honestly, because I really was. I had this mindset of if we just do everything perfectly and if we just, and there, when you're dealing with the number of people that we're dealing with, and I'm not just talking about attendees, but vendors and staff of the hotel and everything else, it's like there's going to be people who are going to be upset about one thing or another. And I can't control all of that. And for me, who is a person who really likes control, and I'm trying to learn to be better about that, that was a little hard thing to swallow, kind of, is that not everybody's going to like it. And I can try as hard as I want, and not everybody's going to like it. But once I make my peace with that, and also accept the fact that most people will, and maybe I should be concentrating on the people who like the stuff that's happening rather than the outlying group who just wouldn't be happy if I gave them $1 million and a puppy. And that's not to say that everybody that doesn't like things is a grump or a curmudgeon or whatever, because that's not what I'm saying either. Everybody certainly has the right to their own likes and dislikes. I just need to learn that it's not necessarily my responsibility to manage those. And I'm seeing comments coming up. So let's see. Jeff says, if you try to make everyone happy all the time, I think more people will be unhappy. Totally true. And Kylene is here and she says, hi. Cindy says, I enjoyed it all, but people will give feedback and that can be negative or positive. Take it and learn from the feedback. And yes, and I want the negative and the positive feedback, because if there is something that didn't work and we can fix it or change it, I want to do that. Definitely. And that's why we're going to be having a series of meetings with the volunteers and the vendors. and probably the staff, most likely next week, to try to figure out, okay, what worked for the most people and what didn't, and what was the feedback. And totally, negative feedback isn't a bad thing. Sometimes the person who's giving you the negative feedback is telling you something you need to know. But I think what I needed to learn is it's not a personal reflection on me, that I didn't do something wrong, that it's not always my responsibility to make everything perfect for everybody, that somebody can tell me this didn't work for me and I can be okay with that. So, and what does Jeff say here? Adam had a really interesting perspective on people who complained that he talked about in his class. It hit me hard as I had not heard it before. Yes, and I need to watch the link of Adam's class. I haven't been able to get to that yet, and I'll be interested to hear that. And Cindy says, but don't take it personally. Yeah, something I'm still working on. And Kylene says, yes, what Cindy said, feedback is good, but what you do with it is up to you. And you guys are all totally true, and basically made the point I was trying to make, albeit a little ineptly, which is I need to stop feeling like it's about me, because it's not. It's about the event, and I was part of helping to plan the event. But saying that you don't like something at the event doesn't necessarily mean you don't like me. And that's something I'm still working to separate a little bit, if that makes any sense. And then I need to stop making my comments go away. What happened? That was interesting. Okay. So here is the next thing that I figured out, and I need to go back to these comments and turn that one off for a minute. And that is, it's okay to say that you can't. And here, this hit me in two ways at this show. There were a few requests from people that I had to say no to. And there were reasons. And one of them involved confetti cannons. Sorry, guys. And I felt a little bad about that, because there was part of me that wanted to just wear my let's have fun hat. And yes, let's set off confetti cannons, and let's do some other things that were really kind of fun, but maybe not optimal in terms of safety or, hotel satisfaction, that kind of stuff. So it's okay to say that you can't do something. And again, longtime people pleaser, still learning that it's okay to say that you can't. The other thing I had to learn this show, and I hated it like fire, but I had to learn it, was that sometimes your body just won't let you do things. And you have to say, I can't do that. And I hated it like fire. I cannot tell you how much I hated it. But my body just was not up to certain things. It was hotter than heck in Texas. It was a long, long day at the show. We were walking around. We were standing a lot. My knee was giving me trouble. My heart wasn't particularly happy all the time. And I just had to sometimes say, I just can't do this anymore. I actually got sent to my room one day so I could rest, because I am the sort who will be dying on the inside and push through, because I don't want to be a burden and I don't want to admit that I can't do everything. But the reality is I can't, and that's okay. And it doesn't reflect on me. And it doesn't make me a burden. And it doesn't make there isn't anything wrong with me if I can't go full tilt, every minute of the day. It's just hard for me. I want to contribute as much as I possibly can. I want to be there to help as much as I possibly can. And what I had to learn was as much as I possibly can sometimes is not as much as I want it to be. And that's okay. And I know I wasn't the only one, because there were other people dealing with physical issues as well. And it's really hard, because it's hard to sit and say, hey, can you go get me a bottle of water? Or, hey, can you do this for me? I had what I called minders all weekend, which were some lovely people on our staff Mandy and Vicky specifically. Mandy is our spirit coordinator, and Vicky was one of our amazing volunteers who literally were minding me, who were making sure that I sat, that I ate, that I drank, and checking in with me to make sure that I wasn't too tired. And honestly, at first, it really bothered me. I felt like, I'm not 5. I can take care of myself, but I wasn't taking care of myself. So them gently reminding me was actually, first of all, very sweet and not something I'm at all used to. And I'm sure not something I reacted well to at first, because I'm used to being the caretaker, not the one taken care of. And I didn't know what to do with that. But it also meant a lot that they cared enough to do it. So it was a double-edged sword. Anyway, the point of all this was really, it's okay to have limitations, and it's okay to say, I'm not able to do this. And it isn't a reflection on you. And it doesn't mean you're less of a person. And it doesn't mean you're weak. And it doesn't mean you're a burden. It just means this is the reality of your situation, and you need to be aware of it. And I see more comments coming up. Cindy says, what did they say in Adam's class? I did not see anything wrong with Adam's class. I don't think, Cindy, that he was talking about somebody complaining about the class. I think he was talking about Adam talking about people complaining as part of what he was teaching in the class. I think I'm right about that. Yeah, Cindy, they were telling me they were going to take the confetti cannons off site and let them off. I don't know if they ever did. Jeff says, there are things you can control and things you cannot. I think the show was executed well. The things I felt could be better, I already talked to you about. You received it all well. I was more impressed about your reaction to the feedback than anything else. The willingness and drive to try to do better each year is something I feel other shows do not do well. Well, thank you, Jeff. And I try to listen, because it's important to me that our vendors and attendees know that we really care. And Jeff makes me laugh. LOL, Mandy. There is no way to explain her enthusiasm. There's just one way. It's Mandy. Yes. And if you have not met the hurricane of love and enthusiasm, that is Mandy Rust. If you go look on the Applique Getaway page, there is some video of her, and she is the best and the most fun, and I just love her to death. Cindy says, even my husband has to remind me to not go all out all the time. And I think it's good that that there are people in our lives who will do that, because I'm the same way. I would have worked myself until I literally fell over. And I'll admit, I am not always the best at taking care of myself when I'm trying to get things done. So it was nice to have somebody like your husband who does for you, who would do that for me. And it was great. And okay, yes, Jeff is clarifying. The complainers that Adam was talking about were on a slide. He was talking about haters. And, everybody has them. Okay, so moving on here. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. This is kind of a subset of not everyone will like what you do. But for those of us that have the perfectionist gene, or whatever it is, or who have been told that their worth is measured by how good they are at what they do, or that they have to justify their place in the universe by being perfect at everything, making your peace with the idea that everything doesn't have to be perfect, that it's probably not possible for everything to be perfect, is hard. I'm just going to lay it out there. It's really hard. I think part of the reason that I get so tense about some of the stuff that happens at the show is because I want it all to go perfectly and smoothly. And I want all the classes to run right. And I want the vendors to get everything they need. And I want to be able to supply everything that they need and answer every question that everybody has and make sure everybody has a wonderful time and everything starts right when it's supposed to. And, all these things that, number one, it's not on me alone to make happen. And number two, there are moving parts that I don't control, and things will happen that I can't make better or make right or make work. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in making everything perfect, we forget to see the perfect imperfection that's in front of us. The show was great. I hugged more people than I have in a long time. I laughed harder than I have in a long time. I learned more than I have in a long time. I made some great new connections and I saw some old friends, and it was wonderful. Was everything exactly the way I wanted it to be? No. Some of it was a lot, a lot not like I wanted it to be. But it didn't have to be perfect. It just had to be what it was. And I think if I could unclench and just, and forgive me, but that's the only phrase I can think of, and just enjoy things a little more, then I might have a better time. Because a lot of my stress comes from having this unattainable perfection that I think is the goal. And you know what? The show wasn't perfect, but it worked and people had fun and they told me they learned and they told me they made new friends and they told me they enjoyed it and they told me they'd be back next year. So how much more perfection do I need? Apparently all the perfection. But you know what? I'm working on it. And let's hit some more comments here because you guys are commenting on all this and I love it. I love it. I love it. Alexis says it best. Alexis Galloway, who was another amazing instructor and vendor at our show, love her to death. And she's going to be on the show next week. And it doesn't have, and her saying is, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be pretty. There are lots of pretty things at the show. So I think we did well there. And Cindy says, we all like to be perfect, but things happen. And Jeff says, I've been looking forward to this show since I saw the title. Really? Because you were wondering what I learned, and what I learned is basically I'm a perfectionist and I need to stop being a control freak, both of which are true. And we have a Facebook user here, and I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but you had a blast, which makes me really, really happy. And I'm so pleased to hear that. And that is one thing that I will say, for all that I was striving for perfection and to make things work, the number of people that took the time to come up to me and say, thank you for the class you taught, or tell me about another instructor that they loved, or tell me how much fun they had, or tell me about a great vendor they found. I was so happy about all of that. And that means so much to me. You have no idea. So let's see if this is a good one. This is another thing. You have no idea how hard this is for me. I am so bad at this. You can't even imagine. But you need to depend on others. And I work as part of a team for AG. I mean, there's Lindsay, there's her husband, John, there's Mandy, there's me, there's Carly Book, who runs our registration, who is amazing and patient. And I would like to be her when I grow up. And then we had an amazing team of volunteers. And I can't even list them all off, but you all know who you are. And thank you so much, because you really helped make our show amazing. And I had to depend on all those people to be where they said that they were going to be, to do what they said they were going to do. And sometimes I need to depend on them to pick up some slack that I just couldn't handle. And yeah, that's hard. I am not good at depending on others. My life history has taught me that you can't depend on others, that others aren't going to be there when you need them. So as a lifelong lone wolf and, woman who's lived life solo, depending on other people is really tough for me. But it's something we need to learn to do. That's right up there with the other side of the coin of depending on others, is being willing to ask for help. We had a couple of situations that, help was needed. There was a situation at the end of the show where one of our vendors needed some help loading out because they weren't feeling well. And The Sassy tribe, Nikki Adamkowitz and her tribe, and the embroidery nerds stepped in and helped them and got it done. And it was great. But, the instinct is, well, we'll get it through and we'll get it done. And it just probably wasn't physically possible, honestly. And it was kind of the same thing with me. There were times when I had to say, can you go over and deal with that thing? Because I just really can't do that right now. I just need to sit and be quiet for a little bit. And that's what you need to do. And it is a hard thing. If you're not accustomed to having people on whom you can depend, it's hard. It's really hard. And that was maybe one of the biggest lessons that I learned at the show was, number one, I need to be comfortable depending on people. And number two, and maybe this was the bigger lesson, there are people on whom I can depend. And if you want to talk about a seismic life shift, the second one is a pretty seismic life shift for me. I am not used to having people in my life on whom I can depend. And it means, I can't even tell you what it means. But if you are someone like me who maybe your life experience has taught you that people aren't dependable, maybe there needs to be an amendment to say you just weren't involved with people on whom you could depend. So if you find the right people, they're dependable. Revelation, man. Total revelation. And may I say also, an amazing feeling when you're dealing with, and this sun is just making me nuts because it keeps going under the clouds and coming out, and then the light changes on the screen and it's driving me insane. Sorry, segue, but seriously driving me nuts. But, if you're not used to having people in your life on whom you can depend, makes a huge difference. And I love you guys for throwing all these comments out here today. Let's see what we have. So Tanya is here. Hello, Tanya. Cindy says, I'm sure the vendors have a different thought on the show. Oh, sure. And I'm sure when we do our vendor after action assessment, we'll hear some things that didn't go great and we'll hear some things that did. And that's fine. That's what I want. I don't want everybody to blow smoke up my behind and tell me that everything was perfect, because I know that wasn't true. And it shouldn't be. I don't think perfection is really attainable. As Ms. Sheila Ryan says, who you want to talk about rays of sunshine and joy, Sheila is totally it. And I'm wearing your earrings, Sheila. Perfection is an illusion and a liar. You did great and everything was fun, and fun is much better than perfection. And I love that perspective, and I totally think you are right about that. And Jeff Fuller said, I love to see others' perspectives. It takes a village to make things go well. You are totally right. Totally right on that. I like other perspectives too. I'm fully aware that my perspective is not everyone's perspective. And I like feedback. I like to know what people want and how I can make things better for them, because honestly, that's my job. So that's what I want to do. And we have a hashtag sassy here. I'm not sure who the Facebook user is, but thank you for contributing some sassy to our group. Always nice when Nikki's tribe shows up. And Tanya says, it was so appreciated to have the help to get it done. Jay and I were both shot. Reevaluating how we do things for the next show, learning process. And it's hard to accept help, but getting better. And I totally get that. And Sheila says, I'm loving all of the things you are learning. Me too. I really honestly felt like this show contributed to my growth a lot. I learned some stuff about myself that maybe I needed reminding about. And I also learned some things that I'm glad of, that made me happy. So, and hashtag sassy is Claire Shepard. Oh, Claire, thank you for being here. I so loved spending time with you at the show. It was so fun. So my next little point, there are more points. Did you think that was it? It was not. Joy is contagious. And I have to say, when I called, and she's not the only one, but I'm going to single her out for a minute because Sheila Ryan is the most joyous, fun, lovely person to be around that you will ever meet. And she's always happy and she's always excited. The number of people who shared what they knew, who were eager to teach and help others, it was so amazing. And just seeing people sharing their joy in the things that they were learning, the things that they were buying, the fact that they were meeting other people who did what they do, and just the funny little things that happened. Like there was a lady who, this part isn't funny, but what she said to me was, there was a lady who had taken a spill in the hotel lobby. And I went over to check on her and see if she was all right. And I walked up to the lady and she looks up at me and she says, first thing out of her mouth, before she even said hello, she says, "Oh my God, you're so much cuter in person." And I mean, which is, I guess, better than, "Oh my God, you look so much older in person," which I've heard too. Or, it was a very positive comment. And then she realized what she said and she felt, and I just laughed and said, "Oh, thank you." And it turns out that her fall didn't injure her permanently. She's fine, which was also very good. But in that moment, it was just so funny to me that she had, first of all, watched me on camera before. And then the first thing out of her mouth is, "You're so much cuter in person." And I was like, well, at least you said I was cute. I mean, that's good. But I watched people and I did funny little things. Like I'd go into the bathroom and there would be people standing at the sinks washing their hands. And of course I have a lanyard that says who I am. And my face is pretty recognizable at the show. And so I'd smile at people. And most people would smile back at me, but every once in a while I'd get a stone face. And you could just tell the people who were grumpy and just said I'm being grumpy. Same thing when I was in my classes. Most people were amazingly responsive and sweet and wonderful. And then every once in a while, you just get that stone-faced person who just was not going to be amused or pleased or happy about anything I did. But the fun part of it is the joy starts spreading. People start catching the smiles and the hugs and the excitement and all that stuff. And joy is truly contagious. And I had a boss years and years ago who told me that being positive is always much nicer to be around than being negative. And at that point, I had a very negative attitude about life. And what she said to me stuck with me. And I've always tried to be positive and welcoming and hopeful ever since. And this show brought home to me how important that can be. So if you're making the choice, choose joy, choose happiness. You have the power to do that. And boy, there are more comments here. Let's see. And Jeff said Matthew L. Enderly. I'm not sure if he's saying, if that's because who said the person who said it was a blast. I'm not sure. Alexis Galloway says, I had so much fun. You made it easy to show up and not stress. Thank you, Alexis. I so appreciate it. Oh, and here's Matt. Matt's here. And Jeff says, I call that a contagious personality. You are drawn to them because of their joy. And I think that's totally true. If you see somebody with a smile who's just taking pleasure in what's happening, you want to be around that because it's like being around a warm campfire or wearing a fuzzy snuggly or something or hugging a plush Nerdstrom. I mean, all those things just make you feel warm and wonderful. And who doesn't want that? And Tanya says, I only had one couple that no matter how much I tried or smiled, would not engage. Moved on, but made me wonder what was wrong with them. Everyone else was lovely. And you never know when somebody's having a bad day or, something has gone wrong with them. But for the most part, yeah, everybody seemed to be having a good time and they were very eager. Alexis Galloway says the show was very welcoming. I'm so glad to hear that. That's the atmosphere that we always want to make sure we have at the show. And I'm assuming this is Claire, said, my grandmother always used to always tell me, life is a stage, so smile like you're on one every time you walk out the door. And I kind of like that. And I have to say that so applies to this show, because one of the things that the staff taught, some of us on the staff talked about a little bit, and some of us who were instructors talked about a little bit, is the fact that you kind of are on, because people know who you are and they're watching you and they want to come and say nice things to you. And that's lovely, but it's also a little bit exhausting, which is not to say that I want it to stop, but there's a level of energy you have to put out that is maybe more than you would if you were just hanging out with a bunch of friends. It's a little different level of relating with people. And it's amazing. I mean, the number of people who took the time to say they liked the videos I did, they liked the show, they loved my classes, they learned a lot. And I know other, instructors and vendors were getting the same feedback. That's amazing. And the fact that people took the time to do that is amazing. And we should always be grateful for that. I think that people are taking the time to like what we do and to let us know, because honestly, none of this stuff happens if people don't like what we do. That's really the gist of this. Okay, what's my next point? You can't learn all the things, but you can learn a lot. And I think this is something, sorry, my voice is starting to go a little bit. This is something that I needed to understand, which is there are lessons here, and I'm not going to be able to learn all of them. I can't participate in everything. I can't be everywhere, but I can learn a lot if I have my mind open and I'm paying attention and I'm willing to see the lessons when they appear in front of me. And I don't really want to be all new agey and metaphysical here, because that's not really where I'm at. But one of the things I told myself that I wanted to do when this show happened is, okay, I want to learn how to be better at this. I want to learn how not to hold on so tightly to it, because I don't think that serves the people I work with. And I don't think it serves the people that we're creating this show for. I don't want to be the one who gets thrown by every little thing that happens. I don't want to be the one who makes a fuss if things don't go exactly like they're supposed to. I want to be the person that people feel like they can come to and tell me, frankly, what they're thinking, and I can take it into account and accept it for what it is. So that was kind of this was one of my classrooms for a lot of this stuff. And I think what I mean by this little, you can't learn all the things, but you can learn a lot, is make sure you're open to whatever the lessons are. Make sure that when you do learn something you need to know, you're aware of it and you're paying attention. Because it's easy to get caught up in the minutia, and it's easy to worry about what other people are doing. And it's easy to think that you have to be a certain way, or you have to do a certain thing, or whatever it is. And sometimes we get so caught up in trying to keep up the image, or, trying to portray things a certain way, or trying to make things be a certain way, that we just don't relax into it and let it be what it is and learn whatever we need to learn. And I'm a big believer. Anybody who has watched me talk over these past couple of years knows that I'm a big believer in there's always things to learn. And that sometimes the lessons may not be the most fun, but there's value in them if you can learn something from them that makes you better going forward. I learned a ton of lessons at this show. I learned that I need to stop pushing myself so hard. I learned that I need to relax my need for control. I learned that there are people I can depend on. I learned that sometimes I need to let go a little and just have that third drink which, that was Matthew and Jeff and DJ, who were instigators and bought me drinks. But maybe sometimes I need to have that third drink and just relax and laugh harder than I've laughed in a really long time. I'm not good at just being me sometimes. And maybe that's the biggest lesson I learned of everything that I learned is being me is enough. I don't have to be perfect, and I don't have to be on, and I don't have to be, I don't even know what it is. I don't have to be in control all the time. I can just be me with my imperfections and my fears and my silly sense of humor and my double chin and whatever it is. And there are still people who will like me and want to be around me. And that's a pretty big revelation. So, like I said, you can't learn all the things, but if you're paying attention, you can learn a lot. And I feel like I learned a lot that will make me even better at doing this and maybe more fun to be around while we do this at next year's show. And that makes me feel good. And we have more comments, and I love you guys for all these comments. You are so, so awesome. And Beverly was the one who had the blast. Beverly, thank you for being here. I so appreciate it. Beverly was another of the Sassy tribe, and she was so funny. And she and Nikki and Claire were a trio that was just hilarious and fun and so lovely. And Cindy says, Christine, remember, you don't have to run the whole Applique Getaway. It is a team, and you can only do your part, and do not try to take on the responsibility of other team members. And Cindy is not wrong. There's a whole team there, and Lindsay ran the show for years, long before I got there. So no, I don't have to run it alone. But unfortunately, part of my personality that I need to learn to moderate is I feel like it's all my responsibility and I have to make everything perfect. But Cindy's totally right. There was a great team there who was all doing their part, and it all went well. And I need to remember that I am one cog in the team. I am not Atlas carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. So thank you for that reminder, Cindy. So see, even in this live, I'm learning things. How cool is that? And Tanya said, you are awesome and wish we could have spent more time together. Well, thank you, Tanya. And I do too. Unfortunately, there were a lot of things to do and a lot of people to meet. And so it was tough to spend time with everybody that I wanted to. Every time you say, oh, there are plans and we're all going to get together and we're going to be in the same place. And it's like, oh, hi, so great to see you, but I got to go over here, and that happened more than once with more than one person. But I was really glad to see you and Jay, Tanya, and I was glad to see Jane and Carolyn and Jeff and Justin and Matt and Nikki, and to meet Claire and to meet Beverly and to see Sheila and, to meet all the people that I've seen on screens and I've talked to in interviews. And it was so great to see everybody in person. And that was really amazing. So yes, there were a number of people I wish I could have spent a little more time with, but things happen and it is what it is. And 2 more points and we're done. And this is the next one. Supporting each other is key. One of the things that I loved so, so much this year and encouraged as much as I could was a lot of the vendors were collaborating. Hey, I'm doing a class on this thing. Do you sell this? Because I'll mention it and send people to your booth or your table. Hey, do you have something that I can use? They were making things on Designers Row and, doing little lives and showing what got made. And attendees were supporting each other too. People were helping, we're talking about something that one person didn't understand and helping them figure it out, or helping people figure out where their classes were. The volunteers this year were beyond amazing. I I cannot tell you how much I love these women who were there to make sure that lunches got parceled out appropriately, and who were there to make sure people got to their classes on time, and who were there to make sure that people could download the app and learn how to use it safely. And many, many more tasks. I'm sure I didn't see them all. And we were all there supporting each other. And it had to be that way because, as was just pointed out to me, it's not all on me. Maybe I feel like it is because, like I said, control freak, hopefully recovering control freak, but we'll see how that goes. But there were people on every level supporting making the show happen and making it work. And there were vendors helping other vendors, and there were attendees helping other attendees. And we were all supporting each other to make sure that everybody got what they needed. And again, as someone who's not used to having that, it's hard to accept it sometimes. I'm used to being on the end of being the supporter. I'm the one who provides what you need. I'm the caretaker who makes sure that you're looked after. I'm the one who does that. I'm not so used to being the one who has someone say, "What do you need? How can I help?" And that happened to me multiple times this weekend. And I got to say, it's a nice feeling. It really, really is. But one of the things I loved about this show so much was how much everybody did support each other. It meant a ton. And I want to catch a few more comments here, and then I will go to the last point. Tanya says, "It was wonderful to see so many and meet others, and it was truly amazing to see people shine. Becky and Claire were amazing." And Sheila says, "There was so much collaboration," and there totally was. And I love that Tanya used the word shine in her comment, because that is my last point. There's joy in watching others shine. And there so is. The people who, watching Alexis teach her first 2 live classes, and just like knocking it out of the park. I didn't get to see Adam's class in person. I have the tape of it, but I heard, which I will definitely watch, but I heard really good things. And I was so, so proud of him because he did something that people much older than him are afraid to do. He got up in front of a room of adults, and he's 11. And I mean, I could do a whole show about how great that kid is. I honestly could. And I'm sure Jeff would totally let me do it. But he was just amazing. And he handled himself with such grace and such maturity. I mean, he's still mischievous and he's still 11. But really, he handled himself with just such poise. It was really amazing to see. And I was so happy. But I mean, seeing everybody, Sheila taught great classes, and the embroidery nerds, and Nikki's classes, which I heard so many raves about, and just watching everybody, some of them for the first time, do something that they were so passionate about and they cared about. And knowing that I had even a small part in making that opportunity happen made me feel so good. And watching attendees find something they needed or learn something that was going to help them or get excited about this new technique or this new thing that they bought that was really going to take their business to the next level. There is nothing like it. And I'm not going to lie. I'm a performer. I like being in the spotlight. I like it when people are paying attention to me. It's nice. It feels good. But there's something about knowing that you had a small part in somebody else getting their moment in the sun or in the spotlight that is just amazing. And I'm so, so proud of everyone who taught their first classes this weekend, who took a step towards starting their own business at the show, or who took a step at adding some new product to their business or new piece of equipment or whatever it was. You don't know how proud that makes me and how happy I am that we were able to have a small part in that. So never, ever underestimate the joy of helping somebody else do something that makes them happy or makes them proud. It's the best feeling ever, I gotta say. And I so appreciate everybody who was here today. I so appreciate all your lovely comments and the nice things you said about the show. That wasn't really the purpose of this, but it's amazing that you took the time to say them, and I so appreciate it. That's really it, guys. I will say, if you were at the show and you happen to have the pleasure of being in a class with Alexis Galloway or meeting her, she is going to be on the show next week, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. She's an amazing young woman. She has a lot to say, and I think you should all watch. And I want to catch a few more comments here before we go. I learned so much this year in classes and one-on-one. There's something about getting to socialize with other like-minded ladies and gentlemen. It was a really great experience. Thank you for all that you did to make this weekend special. Well, thank you. And I'm not sure if this is Beverly or Claire or someone else entirely, but thank you very much. StreamYard is not showing me your name, unfortunately, but I really appreciate the comment. And Cindy, you can catch the replay. The replay will be, the replay is always available. And Alexis's classes were awesome. And apparently that was Delonda that left the comment above. Thank you, Delonda. She was another wonderful person that I met this weekend. And Cindy says, I just got a sweet email from Alexis. That's lovely. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you all for watching today. Thank you all for your amazing comments. Thank you for being at the show. Thank you for supporting the show. We love you. We hope you will support us for our 10th anniversary in 2023 and for virtual later this year. And details on virtual will be coming out soon. Just thank you. Really, I can't say it enough. It was an amazing experience. I learned a ton. I laughed a ton. I had such a good time. And I can't wait to do it again next year. And I will see you all next Wednesday with Alexis Galloway. Thank you, everybody.